There is a chord progression that always sounds like a villain. The inner workings of the notes shift and clash in a dark, sinister, Joker-esque kind of way. I'll show you. The chord progression is any minor 11 chord moving to the minor 13 chord 2 semitones below. We'll keep things easy to process by starting on C. 2 semitones below C is B flat. Our chord progression will go back and forth between C minor 11 and B flat minor 13. To build C minor 11, we'll take 2 octaves of the notes of C natural minor, start on the first note, and skip a note until we reach the 11th. Next, let's build B flat minor 13, using the same process, this time with the notes of B flat Dorian, skipping a note until we reach the 13th. Let's hear them together. Right now, the villain vibe is not coming through. We need to voice these chords to capitalize on their potential for a twisted kind of sound. First, let's duplicate the 5th of C minor 11, G, up an octave. This is essential to the sinister sound because now, as the chords shift back and forth, we have this G note that remains on top over both chords. Over C minor 11, it's the 5th, and over B flat minor 13, it is the 13th. A nice transformation. The same tone shifts from the 5th to the 13th as the chords change underneath, but this is still lacking some craftsmanship. Let's shift E flat, the minor 3rd of C minor 11, up an octave. Now, we get this nice cluster of notes at the top. D, E flat, F, and G, the 9th, minor 3rd, 11th, and 5th. Let's do the same thing to our B flat minor 13 chord. We'll shift the minor 3rd, D flat, up an octave. Now we get some more clustering between C, D flat, and E flat, the 9th, minor 3rd, and 11th of the chord. A couple things strike my ear. I want the G note sustaining across both chords to be a focal point of the chord progression, perhaps like the unsettling grin of the Joker that persists through every scene. But currently, in our C minor 11 chord, G is being challenged by the F note right below. If we were to remove this note from this position, the G note would have more room and would be more clearly perceived by the ear as the unobscured top note or melody of the chord. But we don't have to do away with it completely. In fact, by repositioning F an octave lower, we gain an elegant motion between the chords. With F an octave lower, it remains consistent throughout both chords in the lower octave. Over C minor 11, it is the 11th. And as the chord shifts to B flat minor 13, F becomes the 5th. There is some admirable symmetry here. As the G note above glides over the chords, it transforms from the 5th to the 13th, going from a fundamental tone to the most extended, most colorful tone of the chord. The reverse happens to F hovering above the root in the lower octave. It starts as the 11th of C minor 11, the most colorful tone, and becomes the 5th, a fundamental tone, to B flat minor 13. G and F transform equally and in opposite directions over each chord. We now have this nice separation between E flat and D, the semitone cluster, and G above. We can gain another point of symmetry if we remove E flat from B flat minor 13. Without E flat, there is another semitone cluster positioned a whole tone lower, while G remains over both. Now we have our villain sound, this jagged dissonance that we carved out of the notes of the chords as we created our voicing. We didn't force it here. The jagged, almost demented dissonance is a result of the story and origin of the chord progression itself, perhaps in the same way that a villain's malice is the result of their tormented origin. But even though we are leaning into the villain mood here, we are still creating chords that vibe. So let's hear how this dissonance fits into the complete voicings. Our voicings are telling a story as harmonic blocks, but let's put them into time by giving them rhythm. First, let's shift B flat minor 13 so it plays an eighth note earlier on the and of beat 4. Then let's repeat G in a rhythm that mimics the bouncing of a ball. We'll repeat G on beat 2, and then play it 3 times, all 3/16 notes apart, starting on beat 3, and then on the of beat 3, and then syncing with the B flat minor 13 chord on the and of 4. We'll then repeat G another 3 times, all 3/16 notes apart, starting on the and of beat 1, and then on the E of beat 2, and then on beat 3. This gives this G note the same feeling of persistence we feel from any formidable villain, an unrelenting antagonization of the hero. The time has come for us to break these figures open a bit and bring it to life. There is a space in the second half of the B flat minor 13 bar. Let's duplicate our chord progression so that it repeats twice. Now we have room to fill this space as we connect back to C minor 11. You can do this so many ways, but my ear is pulling me towards a descending motion through the chord tones, going down from G to F, the 5th of B flat minor 13, and then E flat, the 11th of B flat minor 13. This allows us to elegantly descend by 1 semitone as we shift back to our first chord, C minor 11, landing on D, the 9th. But we don't want to abandon our continuous G note, so to get back to G from D, we'll rise through the same 2 notes, E flat, which is now the minor 3rd of C minor 11, and then F, the 11th of C minor 11, which then steps up to G, the 5th of C minor 11. Let's hear it in the context of the harmony. The satisfying element here is how we use the same 2 notes, F and E flat, to descend and ascend. But since we are using them on either side of the chord change, the identity of these 2 notes changes. The same notes are functioning as different chord tones within the context of each chord. This aspect adds to the harmonic color and also introduces another trait of the villain, the two-faced, unpredictable character. I want to do one more thing to this moment. I want to add a second layer to this melodic motion, a counter melody underneath. We'll ascend through the root and 5th of the chord, B flat and F, to meet the first note of our melodic descent above, F, which will be paired with the 7th of the chord underneath, A flat. This is especially nice because A flat and F form a major 6th interval, which is a minor 3rd upside down, and is a strong harmonization. We'll continue this relationship as the top melody moves down to E flat, which will be paired with the counter melody moving down to G below, which now forms a minor 6th interval, which is a major 3rd upside down. And here is the real payoff to this whole counter melody to my ears. G can now stay in place as the top melody moves down to D, because G is part of the next chord, C minor 11. G is the 5th. And as G remains and the top melody descends from E flat to D, it forms a perfect 5th, which is a strong but hollow sound. There is a glimpse here into the mind of the villain, pairs of notes harmonizing in sonorous 6ths, upside down 3rd intervals, forming a major and minor sound, but then reverting back to a perfect 5th interval, a strong but empty sound, almost as though someone is grasping at their humanity, the major and minor, the ups and downs, but then retreats to the illusion of safety and strength in the empty void. We'll repeat our loop once more so that we can add another variation on this melodic moment as we make our next shift back from B flat minor 13 to C minor 11. This time we'll rise up to C and then come down to B flat, which then rests back down to G. This forms a pentatonic sound that strongly paints a C minor impression, even though in this moment the chord is B flat minor 13. The counter melody below will remain the same as before. Take note of how the relationship is now thirds instead of sixths. A flat and C form a major third, and then G and B flat form a minor third. Finally, G remains in place while the top melody falls to G as well. This repeats and intensifies the same pattern as before. The two moments of humanity, major and minor intervals, followed by a reversion to perhaps the most safe and the most empty interval of all, the octave. This is as though our villain has had a second episode, but this time sunk back into their complexes even deeper. We'll repeat our first counter melody as our two chords repeat for a third time. And for the final bar, we'll diverge from the pattern we have established. This time, we will quickly ascend in 16th notes, rising through the scale from the 13th up to the 13th an octave higher in stepwise motion through the B-flat Dorian mode. But when we reach the top, we find it to be a staircase to nowhere, and we fall immediately back down to G below, where our story begins again. There is something poetic about this last melodic gesture, as though our character wants to escape, perhaps has a desire to change their ways. They muster the courage to break away, but the life they have lived has them shackled, and even when they reach that final step, they are yanked back into their life of villainy. There is one more thing that really ties this idea together as a band. Even though the chord progression shifts from C minor 11 to B flat minor 13, our bass player has the power to anchor both chords to the C note, resulting in the feeling that even though the chord shift is happening, the whole progression feels like its root is C. This is powerful because it transforms the B flat minor 13 chord into a type of Phrygian chord. You can think of this in a lot of ways, but if I have to put a label on it, I would call it B flat minor 13 over C. This feature of the bass line, combined with reinforcing the roots when a deeper tone is needed and also adding melodic embellishments between the chord shifts, reinforces the dark, villainous sound while still grooving. To me, this combination of rich, emotional harmonic colors and rhythmic groove satisfies two very different and complementary parts of my musical cravings at the same time. One without the other always leaves me feeling too salty or too sweet. When they come together, I can stay in that zone without growing tired as quickly. There is a lot of space in this groove. To my ears, it is asking for some melodic elements. Let's see how the guitar, the jazz box, complements this sonic space. But before we do, I want to let you know that if the ideas and approaches we explored in this video resonate with you, you can take the full deep dive and transform your music making skills by bringing these concepts into your own music with my courses. And if you want a full toolkit that gives you instant access to these kinds of chords, drum patterns, bass lines, and melodies, then check out Vible Volume 1. And if you want to join a community of learning, where we take this kind of information and theory and put it into practice, taking your music to the next level, then check out the Society of Vibe. You'll find all the links below.